Hey guys, welcome to a special edition of the Burrow Podcast. I'm your host today, Josh. With me is regular co-host Cody. How you doing, Cody?
Yeah, I'm doing good, Josh. How about you?
Yeah, good, mate. Good. So when did you fly down? We're down here in Melbourne, by the way, for our Anzac Day game tomorrow. So when did you fly down?
So I flew down today on the Thursday, the day before, and it's going to be my second time coming down to Melbourne this year.
Okay, so yeah, we're obviously playing at Amy Park, and you've been there before. How do you find the ground?
Yeah, my first time at Eden Park was last year, and I reckon it's a good ground. Obviously, the fans are different compared to the Sydney fan bases, but I definitely think it's a very good fan base and very good stadium.
Yeah, well, I've been to quite a few stadiums, and I have that up there in the top few stadiums of the NRL. And you're quite close to the ground as well, aren't you?
Yeah, it feels so much closer than where we usually play at.
And anyway, tell us a bit about yourself. How did you become a South Sydney supporter?
Yep, so back in 2010, 2011, around there, I started to come to Rabbitohs games more often with my grandfather. He was the one that got me into watching rugby league and watching the South Sydney Rabbitohs, and he was the one he's the one that got me into watching Rabbitohs and becoming a massive supporter.
Okay. Now, you've only come recently in the Burrow the last couple of years. How did that all come about?
Well, both of us usually used to sit in bays 111, 112 around there. But one day, one lady came over to us and said, "Why are you sitting in over there when there's membership cards you got there give you access to the Burrow?" So then, since then, we've been sitting in the Burrow until recently. My grandfather hasn't been able to, unfortunately, due to health concerns. But I've been carrying on the legacy since around 2018, 2019, and yeah, I've had a lot of fun times in the Burrow, and it's been awesome.
Sorry to hear that about your grandfather, but he certainly left a great legacy with you to continue on, and eventually you'll pass that down, and I suppose that's what a lot of fans have done is, through their parents and that. So tell us, where are you from?
So I'm from the Central Coast, just about an hour and a half drive from Sydney, just around the area called Tumbiumby, just a 20-minute drive from Gosford.
Okay. And anyway, so how do you find the travel to and from the Central Coast?
Well, I love travelling to our games. Obviously I don't live in Sydney as many South supporters do, but I do drive and/or train down for each game that we play in Sydney. Well, I would prefer to train down because it saves fuel and that, but when I drive down, it is a lot of fun.
Talk about the friendships that you've made in the Burrow, because you've got a few of you young guys that have come recently, all around the same time. Would you like to tell me about the friendships that you made?
Yep, certainly. So especially around the last 2 to 3 years since I've becoming more helpful with the Burrow. Obviously, you're one of them who I've known you for such a long time, but more like the last couple of years. I've also our drummer boy Luca. I met him
regular host of the Burrow.
Yep, the host of the Burrow Podcast, and also CJ Moxley. I've known him since 2022, and he became a member of the Burrow for the last couple of years as well.
CJ was meant to be down here, but unfortunate circumstances prevented that from happening. But all great guys and that, and no doubt we'll be having interviews with them very similar to this. It's so you guys at home can get to know a bit more of the people in the Burrow, and hopefully come and join us. Now, what would you say to someone that's looking to come into the Burrow, but probably a bit hesitant? What would you say to them?
I would say if you like to come sit with us, I would say give it a try. Compared to other fan bases, we are one of the better fan bases, and we are a lot more cooler and calmer compared to other fan bases when we allowed oppositions in the Burrow. And I think standing above the rest, singing in the Burrow as well, I think that would want to make someone become a member of the Burrow.
Now, you talk about the singing culture that we have. Is there a favourite that you have, a favourite song that you have?
Oh, there's so many. I love the sing every time we play. The Dirty You Cheating Bastards is definitely my most favourite one. when a call doesn't go the correct way, like majority of our games.
Oh, you probably haven't heard it, but we've got this one where when we've got the game wrapped up and the opposition fan leaving, we start this chant, "Is there a fire drill?" And it's great. It's a great chant, and I don't know if you've experienced that before.
Yeah, I've heard it a couple of times. Last heard it at the game in Wollongong, which that was an amazing game back a few weeks ago. And another favourite song of mine is "There's Only One South Sydney."
That's a good one. I mean, my personal favourites, because what it represents is "Take Me Home, Botany Road," because the game's won. I've always said that. The Burrow's been around a long time, and I've got numerous amounts of games that's stuck in my head for a long time. One of the ones was in 2008 when we came back from 28-4 down against the Cowboys. Up there we had them heckling us, but we come back and end up winning. I think it was a field goal by Chris Sando in the end.
29-28.
Yes, it was 29-28. They're the sort of games that stick with you, and you just remember there was the Roosters in 2005. The Burrow was huge that night, and we hadn't beaten them since, I think, 1994 was the last time we had beaten them.
13-game losing streak.
Yeah, and we end up winning 17-16. Those sort of games, the 2 tries against, a lot of them happen to be the Roosters games, but where we came back and scored 2 tries in the last 2 minutes to actually win it, which they did in round 1. That was 2012.
Yep, and we didn't return the favour in round 19 that year.
Yeah, so there's games that a lot of games out, but with you in recent times, just joining over the last couple of years, what game stands out to you?
There's been quite a lot. I reckon our game against the Dragons down at Wollongong, which that was my first time as a Rabbits fan there. I didn't think we'll come back in that game after how we were playing for most of that second half before, I guess, the Dragons just gave up and we just turned out to find some momentum and we won it with Jamie field goal. Back a few years ago on the Central Coast in 2018, the game against the Canberra Raiders, 42-22, I think the score was.
Greg Inglis intercept length of the field, intercept try, or close to length of the field. Yep,
and I think another game, 2022 on the coast as well, Manly. We beat them 40-22, I think the score was.
That's right. There was who was he that got sent off from Manly early on for a spear tackle on Cam Murray? Carl Lawton.
Yeah, Carl Lawton got sent off for that one.
That was a weird game because it took us a while to get into that game. And we were struggling, even though they had, a player sent off. But in the end, that ended up showing that game. Just a couple of weeks ago, that game against the Roosters, I likened it to saying that it was an old school feel for the Burrow. It was very, something that you probably hadn't experienced in the Burrow.
No.
Because it's been a while since we did that. But the Burrow was quite big and it felt like the Burrow of old. What was your feeling about that game?
After the fact that we lost both of our starting halves, both Jamie Humphries and Cody Walker, I think I didn't expect us to come back and win like that, but it was so great. I think that was definitely one of the best turnouts we have had in so many years, and definitely one of the best games I've attended, especially in the last couple of years.
Well, I was lucky enough to interview Shannon Donato after the game, and he had a lot to say about what not just the Burrow but the members in general meant, and he spoke about how it was our singing, our chanting, and that lifted the boys and got them home. And when you hear that from the CCO of the club, how does that make you feel?
It makes me just feel so proud of being a Rabbitohs supporter and a Rabbitohs member for life. It shows you how much we love this club as well.
Yeah, iconic moments. We've had plenty of iconic moments over the years. In the grand final, and I'm talking about plays of the game. Like for me, the one that stands out. I was there in Brisbane on Anzac Day. It was 2014, and that length of the field, Greg Inglis try that we will always remember. That's such an iconic play. The try that we got from the kick-off against the Roosters in 2012 to win the game, that was the second try in the second. So, talking about iconic plays, what stands out for you?
Iconic players?
Plays.
So I reckon going back to Well, speaking of last week's feature, but Rabbits Dogs back in 2015, I think it was, when Good Friday was just starting. Um, I think James Graham hitting Adam Reynolds very high, and Reynolds getting a penalty goal.
It was actually quite low. He hit him. That's the problem. Yeah, you're right. That was a special day. I mean, I think that was like the 4th year. I think we started in 2012, and then so it's been a fixture.
And then Dogs fans were like throwing stuff at the referees, like cans, bottles, and all that stuff as well.
Well, they still haven't got over that game. I mean, that game was it was funny because still today, Dogs fans think that they were cheated from it. And you've had James Graham and Josh Reynolds both come out since and admit that was a correct decision by the ref. And it's hard because refs make 100% correct decisions and they cop it from everyone, and it just shows how hard of a job that is. But it was 100% a penalty, and the rule states you can't make contact to the planted foot. That's always been the rule.
Always.
And then you had commentators like Gus Gould saying that wasn't a penalty. I was actually just looking at that the other day. It came up on my newsfeed on TikTok or something, and I had a look at it. I just laughed because Gus Gould was going on, and it was only Peter Sterling that came out and said, that it was a penalty, and God, don't we miss him on the commentary team because he was the most fairest commentator, even though he was, Parramatta, down to the bone, and that he still was such down the middle. He was unbiased, and we miss that in a lot of commentary these days, don't we?
Yep.
So we're looking now, like what was some of your early memories of supporting South? Yeah, with your grandfather taking the games. What's some of your early memories?
Oh, I think like seeing the great players of like Isaac Luke, Nathan Merritt, and then eventually Greg Inglis coming to the Rabbitohs as well. I think they were the players that stand out to me, and I think they were like my favourites when I first started watching with the Rabbitohs, and just seeing them play in how they play out how they play, and how they attack and defend is amazing.
Okay. Well, do you remember the day? I remember the day that we signed Greg Inglis. I actually had some mail beforehand that it was happening. So, but then the NRL just tried to stop it, prevent that from happening. But the day, I think it was close to Christmas that they finally gave the green light, and it was a special day. I mean, what were your thoughts when we were able to get someone like Greg Inglis?
Well, I think back at that time, because I was a lot younger, I didn't really understand it. But going over now, going over in today's day and age, I reckon it was an excellent signing. And if I was like a little bit older at the time, I reckon it would have been the best signing of 2010/2011.
Yeah. Just want to get your thoughts on the Burrow. What was it that actually attracted you to the Burrow?
Well, going to the first few games in the Burrow, I didn't really knew what it was about. I did not know any of the history about it either until like a couple of years ago, since I've since I've joined more. I think it's just the amount of singing and the amount of chants that I heard coming from the Burrow. I think that's what really was out there better than what most other clubs do when it comes to their crowds, because you don't see many of them like singing or standing, and they just use like PA chants and all that stuff when the games are on. But with us, we don't use PA chants, don't use anything like that.
Yeah, well, I've got to say, anyone out there, is kind of thinking about come and join us, come join in. Come to the core area and sing the songs with us. We certainly want you there. Young guys like Cody have come in and made a difference. And back in the day, we've got a long history now. I think we formed in 2003. We formed, and for those that don't know, that I was in a meeting with a guy named Steve Edwards, who was one of the older guys from the Burrow. We went for a meeting with our then CEO, Dave Tappan, and a lady called Caroline Lumley, and we asked, we were talking about, and we were the Rabbitoh Army before that, which we weren't really fond of, and we wanted a name change and that, and I had an idea that It could have been, like I always wanted it to be the Warren, but that was taken by a forum. And it was Caroline Lumley that turned around and said, "What about the Burrow?" And that's the history there. That was history there in making. So it's been known as the Burrow, and it's been the forefront of supporters groups since. That you had the kennel turn around. We spoke about that earlier. I spoke about that earlier with Luca, and they were, people were kind of coming off the back of the Burrow. You had the kennel, you had at one stage I think there was a jungle, wasn't it, for the West Tigers, and then they had the Fanatics, and now they're the Ambush, which we actually have a co-hosting event with the Ambush before the Campbelltown game in a few weeks at the Beer Shed over at Lamia. Get down there. We haven't got any guests as of yet, but we will have someone there to speak. But it's a good day down there, and a local brewery there. And the owner, who I know quite well, is actually a mad Rabbitohs supporter.
Yep.
So it's something for you guys to get down. We want to have more of these events to create more of, get more social aspect of the Burrow happening. And what would you say, about your away trips? Here you are in Melbourne on one. You went to Perth a couple of weeks ago.
Yep. Don't get me started on the long trip over there and on the way back. But yes, doing these away trips, which I've been doing on and off for the last couple of years, but more going to every single one since the start of this year. Different atmosphere and different things to do, but I've been enjoying it. Win, lose or draw, I enjoy it every time, and I think everyone that supports the club, I reckon everyone should go out and do it.
I think this is me passing the baton on to him to go to every game. It's something that I've done for such a long time, and and you get some bad ones that you go, God, and then you get some, but then you get the great ones, and that makes it all worthwhile. Your away trips that you've been on, what's one that stood out for you?
Well, for the away trip for Magic Ground in 2023, which that was my first time going up to Suncorp as well, when we beat the Storm, 28 points to 12. Oh, that was one of the best games and one of the best days I had ever turned out. And most recently, as I discussed it earlier, today, Dragons Rabbitohs in Wollongong, even though the seating was a bit questionable, that was definitely a great turnout, and was definitely worth going, despite driving 2 to 3 hours to get down there, which was a pain in the ass. But I think that those two away trips are definitely the best ones I've had so far.
We've got a few away trips remaining, and I'm talking about ones where we get on the plane and travel. Last year I went to Vegas and that was an experience. But what are you looking forward to? Which trip are you looking forward to?
Well, I'm looking forward to going back to Canberra. At least it's not in the night this time, because freezing as a bit of a different experience. It's been confirmed now. Playing the Dolphins at Suncorp in round 17.
That's right, and we'll be in the away supporters bay for that. So get your tickets and come join us. And one thing you'll find is the Queensland crowd, the Southeast Queensland crowd, really join in with our chants, and actually great atmosphere, especially on the Gold Coast. If you haven't been to the Gold Coast, that's one that I recommend you get to, because for anyone down in Sydney, it's a great away trip, and it is actually a home game for us, and that's what it feels like. I've had Gold Coast fans saying they hate playing us up there because they just feel like they're really at an away game. So that's one that you need to experience.
You should have more of your fans turn up Gold Coast, but
I don't think they have a choice, because we got that many fans up there that go. It really is a great atmosphere.
Yep. And I'll be looking forward to going up the Gold Coast to see us for the first time this year as well. It's going to be. I've got to wait to round 23 though, which that's the bad part.
Anyway, time's just about run out. Make sure you like and subscribe. We hope to have more of these interviews with to get to know some of our members and that. This is Cody anyway. Any last thoughts, Cody?
Well, thank you for having me on, Josh. But this was definitely a great thing to do, and And as well, guys, make sure you tune to the Burrow Podcast. We will be doing more episodes as they come out in the next few weeks. And also, I also run a YouTube channel called Cody's Footy World. Don't forget to go and like and subscribe to my YouTube channel as well if you can.
I'm your host, Josh, with Cody. Thank you for watching.